Chain of Blood: How a Deadly Gang Feud Targeted a Top Prison Chief. The gunshot was so fast and sharp that nobody on the quiet street understood what had happened at first. A man, calm, dressed like a regular delivery driver, had walked up to the front door of a peaceful suburban home in Monument, Colorado. He held a small package in one hand. In the other, he hid a gun. When the homeowner, a well-respected prison director named Tom Clements, opened the door, the man didn't say a single word. He just raised the gun and fired. One shot, then another. And in less than 10 seconds, the gunman ran back to his car and sped into the night. People in the neighborhood heard the tires screech. They heard someone scream. They would later remember the blue glow of police lights filling the dark street. But none of them knew that this moment was not some random attack. It was part of a chain reaction that had started inside prison walls years earlier among angry men who lived and breathed gang loyalty. Those men carried their grudges far beyond the gates, creating a trail of violence that ended right here in front of Tom Clements' home. As paramedics rushed to save him, officers scrambled to understand the scene. Why this house? Why this man? Why this style of attack that looked like a planned hit and not a simple break-in or robbery? The answers didn't come quickly. The gunman was already across county lines, heading toward the next step of a plan he believed he had no choice but to follow. The investigation moved fast, but the fear moved faster. A prison director shot at his own front door. It didn't feel like a coincidence, and investigators began to whisper the one possibility no one wanted to say out loud. What if this was a prison gang sending a message? Before police could confirm anything, the gunman made a mistake. He ran a red light in Texas. Deputies tried to pull him over, and instead he opened fire from inside his car. It turned into a high-speed chase that lasted miles. In the middle of gunshots, sirens, and racing engines, officers found the key they needed: documents, weapons, and clues that tied the shooter directly to a gang-controlled plan. The man who had fired the shots was Evan Ebel, a former inmate and known member of the 211 crew, the dangerous prison gang with a long history of revenge, grudges, and violent orders.
But even as officers closed in, even as the final shots of the chase rang out, they still didn't know the full story. They didn't know who ordered the hit. They didn't know why Evil followed the command so completely. And they didn't know how long the chain of violence had been building inside the 211 crew before spilling out into quiet neighborhoods far from prison fences. What they did know was this: this was not the end. This was only the first clear sign that a prison rivalry had broken loose into the outside world, leaving a trail of blood behind it. And the deeper investigators went into the gang's history, the more they realized something terrifying. Tom Clements had never been the only target. The gunfire from the Texas chase was still echoing across the highway when investigators realized they had just lost the only man who could explain why a prison rivalry had pushed its way into a quiet Colorado neighborhood. Evan Ebel was gone, but the trail he left behind was just beginning to open doors to a much darker truth. Officers searched his crashed car carefully. Inside, they found the same kind of gun used to kill Tom Clements. They found fake plates, fake documents, even a homemade silencer. But the most important discovery wasn't a weapon. It was a letter, a short, angry message that investigators believed tied Ebel to someone much more powerful than himself. While forensics teams studied the evidence, detectives went straight to the place where this bloody chain truly began: the Colorado State prisons. They targeted the 211 crew, the gang Ebel had belonged to. The 211 crew wasn't just a random group of inmates. They were organized, strict, and ruthless. They were born from racial hatred and built on revenge. Inside their ranks, loyalty wasn't just expected, it was forced. If you disobeyed, you paid. If you talked, you paid. And the payment was always violence. Detectives began interviewing gang members inside the prisons, but fear hung over the conversations. Some inmates pretended not to know Ebel. Others whispered his name like a curse. A few admitted that something had been happening, something that started months before the murder. There had been tensions, threats, and rumors that a high-ranking member of the gang wanted to show power beyond the prison gates. Nobody wanted to say too much, but the message was clear. This wasn't random. This wasn't sudden. This had been building like a storm.
The picture grew even darker when investigators learned that Ebel had been released from solitary confinement only weeks before the killing. He had spent years inside a small concrete box, and those who knew him said it changed him. He came out angry, unstable, and ready to prove himself to the gang again. But what nobody understood yet was this: Ebel didn't come out on his own. Someone inside the 211 crew pushed for him to be released. Someone wanted him on the streets, and they wanted him ready. Officers studied phone calls, letters, and hidden communications passed through the prison system. They found small clues, words like mission, proof, and message. They found names scratched out, code words replaced with symbols, and warnings that something big was coming. But none of it formed a complete picture. It was like holding pieces of a puzzle with no edges. Meanwhile, the public fear grew. A top prison director had been murdered at his front door. A prison gang seemed connected, and the people wanted answers. Reporters crowded press conferences. Families of inmates begged for protection. Officers worked non-stop, trying to track every phone call and every connection Ebel had made in the weeks before the murder. Then came the moment that changed everything. Deep inside one of Colorado's high-security prisons, an informant, shaking, scared, and looking over his shoulder, finally spoke up. He said Ebel didn't just wake up one day and decide to kill Tom Clements. The order came from someone higher inside the 211 crew. Someone who wanted to strike back at the prison system itself. Someone who believed that killing a top official would send a message so loud that even the government would feel it. But before the informant could say the name of the man behind the order, before he could reveal the leader pulling the strings from behind bars, suddenly alarms blared across the prison. Officers ran down the hallway. The informant froze. And then, everything went dark. The power flickered out so suddenly that for a moment, the prison fell into complete silence. Then came the noise, shouting from inmates, boots pounding down the hallway, officers grabbing flashlights and trying to control a place that could turn dangerous in seconds. In the middle of all of this, the informant who had been ready to name the man behind the hit on Tom Clements stood frozen, breathing fast, eyes wide with fear. He knew what the blackout meant. It wasn't an accident. Someone didn't want his voice heard.
When the lights finally snapped back on, everything looked the same, but the informant wasn't. He backed away from the table, shaking his head, refusing to speak another word. Officers tried to calm him, but he kept repeating the same sentence. He knows I talked. Whoever he was, the fear in the informant's eyes told investigators they were getting close to the heart of the gang's plan. Detectives reviewed every security camera during the blackout. Nothing obvious showed up. No inmates moving strangely, no guards acting differently, just darkness. But the timing was too perfect, and it left only one explanation. The 211 crew had help on the inside. Maybe a guard, maybe a worker, maybe someone passing messages. Someone loyal enough or scared enough to flip a switch the moment the truth was about to come out. The investigation continued, and slowly, piece by piece, everything pointed toward one man, a powerful figure inside the 211 crew, a man known for running operations from behind bars, a man feared so deeply that inmates refused to say his name out loud. This wasn't some street-level gangster. This was someone who had built his power through violence, threats, and strict control. Someone who believed that striking at the prison system itself would raise his status inside the gang. Investigators found letters that hinted at orders. They found coded messages that lined up with the dates leading to the murder. They found communications passed between inmates that matched the gang's method of sending signals. But even with all of this, the one thing they needed most, the informant's voice, was gone. He shut down completely, refusing to talk again out of fear for his life. Outside the prison, the story continued to shock the country.
a prison gang had possibly ordered a hit on a top corrections leader. Families wondered how far the gang's power reached. Could something like this happen again? How many more inmates had been groomed to carry out orders on the outside? Reporters asked those questions, but investigators still didn't have solid proof to present. They had clues, messages, and patterns, but they didn't have that final push.
Then something unexpected happened. A guard approached investigators quietly after his shift. He seemed nervous, glancing around as if someone might be watching him. He said he had seen movements and messages he didn't understand at the time, but now they made sense. He talked about inmates who received unusual privileges. He talked about sudden shifts in behavior among certain gang members. He even mentioned seeing a note passed between cells a week before the murder. What he said next sent a chill through the entire room. He gave investigators a name. The same name the informant never had time to say. It matched the messages. It matched the timing. It matched the leadership style behind the gang's most violent moves. And it confirmed investigators' biggest fear. The hit on Tom Clemens wasn't just revenge. It was an attempt to show that the gang could reach anyone, anywhere. The prison rivalry that began behind concrete walls had turned into a chain of blood stretching miles beyond the gates. And for every answer investigators found, another question rose up. Because now that they knew who ordered the hit, they had to face something even more dangerous. If one order had reached the outside, how many more were already waiting? Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments which shocking real true crime case you want covered next.